Hey everybody, it is Colin Nitro for Nitromaniac TV's Wrestling Unlimited coming at you with the final Nitro Stake for 2020. It is the Nitro Stake for WWETLC, and at the same time, we're kind of do a quick kind of year in review, year and looking back for WWE, but I can't do this alone. I'm excited and very pleased to welcome back to Nitromaniac TV's Wrestling Unlimited, a fella who you might have heard during our Hell in a Cell Nitro Stake last year was when he made his debut in 2019. The one and only the mighty TL has joined us.
Hey, how's it going? I am excited as well. Good to hear from you again.
It is great to hear from you too. Man, tell us overall your thoughts on the show here just before we'll get match by match, but overall coming out of it, we're half an hour removed from the end time. What did you think?
Half an hour removed, and I still feel like I need to wash my brain of what happened at the very end, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that. I'm still trying to process the whole thing. Maybe as we discuss it going through the whole thing, I'll kind of recollect and be like, okay, maybe it was good, maybe it was bad, but that ending, that was something.
It was sobering. I can tell you that right now. It definitely was unexpected. I didn't think that we'd see that. I'll be honest with you. Going into this pay-per-view tonight, I did not catch the end of this past week's Raw, and SmackDown fell exactly the same time as I was watching Ring of Honor's Final Battle pay-per-view on Friday night. So I didn't get a chance to watch SmackDown at all. So I came into this like absolutely cold, with the exception of maybe like the first 90 minutes of Raw on Monday. So I had no idea that Orton and Fiend was going to be a Inferno match. So that was really shocking to me to see that stipulation, and the fact that they actually went ahead and did it. Like, we'll get to it at the very end, but I got my thoughts on that. So that was very surprising. And, as expected, there were some surprises that were, shall we say, leaked during the day leading up to this that came to fruition. That, like we said, we'll get to that anyway off that. I ended up watching the pre-show. I don't know if you did, but I watched the pre-show, and all it was an 8-man tag that basically furthered the storyline between Sami Zayn and Big E. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So to give you a little bit of background, I've been, I guess what wrestling community would call a casual viewer is what I've become.
Okay.
One of those guys that like used to watch heavy, but like has really dropped off in this last little while. So you talk about coming in cold, ice cold,
ice
like
cold.
I almost, this is almost like a reintroduction into the latest version of the product. So,
well, what's cooler than being cool? Ice cold.
Ice cold.
There you go. So, yeah. Hey.
Shout out to Outcast. Anyway.
Hey ya. Anyway.
Exactly.
But I haven't had a chance to really convene on one of these with a outside contributor since my buddy Morehouse and I did I think it was our spring odds and sods cast way back in, man, was May or April or May, right after the pandemic started. So, and I think that's kind of par for the course right now with a lot of wrestling fans, is that just because of the actual drama and everything that's happening in real life right now, and quite frankly, the continued, I'm going to fire a shot here, but the continued decay of the quality of WWE programming in general, it's been kind of not, it's not been front of mind to watch every episode every week or whatever. So, it is though kind of refreshing when you come into a show like this, like we did tonight, and it ended up being a kind of a fresh deal. Like it felt all kind of brand new to me watching it, and kind of, okay, this is kind of cool, kind of picking up, also kind of there were characters that were introduced that obviously were introduced to us during those weeks and days where I missed watching Raw and SmackDown and whatever, like Carmella's sommelier or whatever. I just thought that was some dude in a vignette, but it turns out to be that's going to be like a working manager for her or something.
And we'll get to that,
Mm-hmm.
especially the sommelier, because we'll get to that. We'll
Okay.
get to that when we get to that match.
Okay, so I'll get the preamble out of the way here first. The show took place December 20th, 2020 from the Thunderdome, the brand new Thunderdome at Tropicana Field, home of the Tampa Bay Rays, i.e. the World Series runners-up for 2020. On the kickoff show, Jeff Jarrett was on the kickoff panel.
Really?
Yes, he was on the kickoff panel.
Because to answer your earlier question, I did not get to watch the pre-show.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of just started right when the pay-per-view started. So tell me all about this part.
Okay, so this was on the network and also streaming on YouTube and all the various sources that they streamed the bloody thing on. Jeff Jarrett was on the kickoff panel, and there was kind of a breath of fresh air on that panel because that's usually the spot that either Jerry the King Lawler or in the past Shawn Michaels has had, so on and so forth. So this was the first time we had a chance to see Jeff Jarrett in that role, and he actually was really good. He was on the far left of the table and was, you know, a little bit more than, you know how the panel discussion is. It's Charlie Caruso surrounded by Booker T, in this case Peter Rosenberg on the far right. Sometimes it's JBL on the far right, and then on the far left it's Jerry Lawler. It's tonight Jeff Jarrett. Sometimes it's Shawn Michaels. Far left and far right makes it sound like a political show. It isn't. It's just their positioning on screen. Reverse that if you are actually the people involved, because the camera and so on and so forth. But anyway, the only thing really notable that came out of that was Miz and Morrison crashed one of the post-video vignette segments, and Miz calling his shot in a pre-show, basically saying F the haters, and should he decide to cash in his Money in the Bank, whenever that will be, wink, wink, he will be WWE champion.
Yeah.
About that.
We don't want to spoil. Yeah, about that. We don't want to spoil
that
part.
Yeah.
Luckily, that's the first match that comes up, so
yeah,
we'll get to that very shortly.
Well, I'll just quickly wrap up the 8-man tag. The participants was Daniel Bryan, Otis, Chad Gable, and Big E taking on King Corbin, Cesaro, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Sami Zayn. This basically was a SmackDown showcase. Very unique deal at the beginning of this too. You saw the angle with the leaked audio from Caleb Braxton's Instagram, the audio interview or whatever between Sami Zayn and somebody, and Zayn basically going off on somebody after the award show on Friday night and saying why Big E, you know, why Big E was allowed in the building, why Big E jumped the award ceremony, and so on and so forth, and blah blah blah. Kind of that angle.
Okay, so that just filled in a blank. Those two don't have a match throughout the pay-per-view, but they do have a little backstage vignette thing.
Yeah.
And that just filled in a blank. So apparently
on
SmackDown.
They met in the 8-man tag prior to the pay-per-view starting.
Gotcha. And I guess on SmackDown, Sami Zayn had the Sammy Awards as opposed to the Slammy Awards. He was giving all the awards to himself, but then when it came to Superstar of the Year, it got somehow switched to Big E, who then crashed the stage and took his award, and then kind of just shoved it up his gut, literally, actually. And so there's some kind of leaked backstage recording of Sami Zayn yelling to somebody. How could they let that switch go on without him knowing about his own award show? So there we go.
There you go. That's what it was. Yeah. So the Big E finally gets his hands on Sammy for the finish and nails the big ending for the 1-2-3. I'm just going to dial up the Wikipedia entry for the pay-per-view because it'll actually give us a runtime of the matches. So PD.
Just want to say off the top, that makes me sick that Shinsuke Nakamura and Daniel Bryan are in a pre-show for a pay-per-view. That's just amazing talent that's just stuffed into an 8-man tag of no consequence. Especially when the whole thing seems to be a story revolving around Big E and Sami Zayn. So that's 2 people, yet this was an 8-man tag. I was why?
Yeah. 8 minutes and 35 seconds for the runtime for that 8-man tag team match. And again, it was just other than the finish, it was basically a showcase match for SmackDown where you showcased Otis and Chad Gable. They have a kind of a new relationship blooming as a tag team, or as Gable, I guess, is the quote unquote mentor for Otis. Shinsuke Nakamura and Cesaro are an established tag team now on SmackDown. So they kind of have a war between that. Corbin and Bryan have been feuding in past weeks. So there's like 3 feuds in one match.
Well, at least Corbin's where he belongs. So that's 1 out of 8.
The pre-show. Did you see that Corbin's got 2/3 of the Forgotten Sons as his henchmen now?
I'm going to be 100% honest. I don't know what that means.
Well, the controversial Jackson Riker is now on Raw as Elias's backup. So the other 2/3 of the tag team that were split after Riker decided to post, I can't remember what it was. I think they were they were like real far right extremist views on his Twitter or something like that earlier in the year.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And but anyway, Steve Cutler and Wesley Blake are now the 2 henchmen for Baron Corbin.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Gotcha.
So very minor move, but
is Corbin still dressed like a waiter?
Corbin had gold pants on tonight, so kinda sure.
Like
maybe?
Hammer pants?
No, not the parachute pants. They were tights, but they were gold lame and black.
That is so jarring. Also, is Gable still Shorty G?
No, Gable is now Chad Gable. Gable is now the mentor to the stars on SmackDown. His gimmick is basically he's taken Otis under his wing since Otis and Tucker Heavy Machinery split, and Gable is now mentoring Otis, and they're a tag team now.
Right, and Mandy got put onto Raw, so
yes.
They had to split.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Which is hilariously weird because Otis looks like he's almost 40 because of just the way he looks, and
right.
Gable looks like he's closer to 20 for the way he looks. That's hilarious that he's a mentor.
I think it's the beard. Honestly, if Otis had the smaller beard and maybe the shorter hair, he'd look younger.
Maybe.
Yeah. That's super easy. But anyway, that's all that happened on a pre-show. Oh, sorry.
Wow.
That's all that I'll try that again. I'm sorry. That's all that happened on the pre-show TL. You missed absolutely nothing going into the show. Well, with the exception of the play between Zayn and Big E, but you got plenty more of that during the pay-per-view itself. So.
Right. But that at least filled in that blank. So
yeah,
that's good.
There you go. Opening the show, that video opening they had tonight was kind of a little lackluster going into it. I didn't really feel too jazzed by it, but going into like the pyro and the ballyhoo and everything like that, the pyro show in the Thunderdome is a lot more intricate, a lot more better now because they have the expanded space of the baseball stadium to use. So it's pretty cool. I thought that it was one of the better pyro shows to open a show this year, but
I need to say, not seeing wrestling for a little while here.
Yeah.
It is so jarring to see how much they've put together in that Thunderdome. I mean, there's lights and lasers and LEDs and spotlights and things shine and glow and blow up. And it's like, did you guys just throw everything in the blender and throw it on screen? Like
it did. Yes, absolutely. That's one of the things that they did. That's for sure.
I swear, if you don't have an up-to-date TV, this thing is just going to be a bunch of pixels that send you into like a Japanime seizure.
Yeah, the problem is that for most people, the WWE Network is a streaming service for their computer, right? So, you're watching it via, how powerful your internet connection is versus how powerful of a computer, desktop or laptop you have that you're watching it. We up here have the weird deal with the CRTC where the streaming portion of WWE Network comes in for our cable boxes. So
exactly.
That's strange, but we don't get the on-demand part through our cable box, which would be awesome. If we want the on-demand stuff with the archival stuff and all the documentaries and everything, we have to go online onto like a PC or a computer or anything like that. And also, our console apps don't work up here for the WWE Network like they do in the States.
Right.
So
that's correct.
Yeah. So.
But just seeing all that stuff on screen was just yikes.
A lot of noise.
That's a great word. That is a lot of noise. And then you've got like the people on their webcams all posted up, like little postcards all over the place, which I understand. I get it. It's, you know, they're trying to replace the crowd and they're feeding in noise that is supposed to match with the videos, but they absolutely do not. And that first match will kind of, as we get into this here, yeah, those don't really mix right.
So the first match, as we get into it, was kind of a jaw dropper. They decided to drop one of the TLC matches on us as the opening contest. It was for the WWE Championship. The champion Drew McIntyre taking on the challenger AJ Styles. AJ, of course, has Almost in his corner, the big, tall, 7-foot plus tall former Raw Underground bouncer, now AJ Styles' backup, basically, or bodyguard, depending on who you ask.
I don't really know what he does because he doesn't do much in this match.
Well, he had a couple of spots, but
nothing that really involved AJ.
No, but they were both the spots that he was both involved in were in support of AJ in getting out the riffraff, i.e. Miz and Morrison. Like, you know, he tossed Miz through the table on the outside, and then he basically chased Morrison to the back after Morrison broke the chair over almost his back.
That was the most Looney Tunes ridiculous thing I've seen. I'm like, the chair actually broke into pieces like Lego. The top fell off, the seat fell off, and Morrison just holding the frame of a chair looking at it after he hit him in the back.
Yeah. Well, welcome to the land of gimmick chairs. So that's the type of chair that, you know, they wanted to have in AEW with Shawn Spears and Cody Rhodes, but then at the last minute, it accidentally got switched out by a real steel chair, and then we saw the damage that caused on Cody Rhodes when Spears knocked him with it, right? So that's over a year and a half ago now, but yeah, exactly. So
well, they found the right chair for this one.
Yeah. So no need to really go blow by blow here. Basically, at the very end, Styles and Miz get dispatched from the top of the ladder. And did you notice that Styles was bleeding from the ear at the very end when he kind of got thrown to the outside?
I did not catch that, actually.
He got caught somehow between getting thrown from the top of the ladder to the outside, and like the ear and the side of his face was kind of gashed open. So I'm hoping that it's not serious or anything like that, but it looked kind of grisly when it was on camera because they panned away from it fairly quickly. So
yeah, what I did notice is that everything that AJ Styles did seemed to be effective because on offense he didn't have to do much.
Yeah,
basically Drew McIntyre would go up the ladder, AJ would hit him with a chair to the legs. Now, granted, it's the back of the leg, so he hit like the calf and the back of the knee. And then Drew would be holding the front of his knee and shin.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, what? Hold your hamstring, your calf, or like underneath, like a soccer player rolling on the ground. What? Why would your knee or shin be affected by this? What are you? Yeah. It's little things like that bug me, that take me out of it.
Yeah. Just the finer details. Yeah. And we'll talk about it, further on, but there was a similar situation to that with Jey Uso and the steel chair when Owens was trying to Pillmanize Uso's ankle a little bit later on in the review, but we'll get to that as it is. 27:35 the runtime for this contest. And I have down in my notes here, because I kind of guesstimated it on the time, an insane 35-minute encounter. Well, it was actually an insane 27-minute encounter. I still think that it was one of the more bonkers matches of the year from what I've seen. And definitely it lived up to the hype that this match had, and then some. I thought that this thing was great for an opener, and I thought that it really just it knocked a whole lot of. It basically allows Drew to start fresh now on Monday, and in as a character, because let's face it, the men's Money in the Bank contract this year for 2020 has been a train wreck since July, since they had that pay-per-view for it. They gave it to Otis initially, and then they realized that the push that Otis had got from WrestleMania, the popularity that he had around that, had fizzled immensely over on SmackDown. So they did the deal where Miz ended up winning the contract from Otis because Tucker turned on Otis. And then Miz is the Money in the Bank contract holder or winner. And now we've seen what happened tonight where he cashed in. I always look at the Money in the Bank and having it this late into the year and even into next year, into the Mania season, if somebody's still holding on to it, as a safety net in case something completely goes wrong. Then you have that guy in waiting that you can just cash it in and maybe move the belt onto if something's going wrong. And basically the issues right now is the segments that are tanking on Raw, on Raw right now, were mostly ones that centered around Miz and Morrison. So
yeah, I don't know how they didn't figure out, I don't know, 10 years ago that people don't like them.
Well, that's fine that they don't like them as if you want to have them as heels, that's fine. But to have an important thing like the Money in the Bank briefcase around one of them and have them kind of elevated up to that point, it's kind of it doesn't serve too much of a purpose.
When I say don't like them, what I mean is Morrison is athletic in the ring, but a charisma vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
And The Miz is not believable because of how dorky and little he looks, but he has charisma. You put them together and you have two halves.
Yeah, and they don't make a hole.
And they don't make a hole. They make an asshole. So
it's the internet. It's cool. You can cuss if you want to.
No. But that was people don't want to see them.
Mm-hmm.
They're just a Saturday Night Live sketch, and a not very good one.
I admit there's times this year where they have been funny, but more often than not, those segments have been at real awkward times in the show, and that's not on them. That's on the people who are laying out the program and the script writers and so on and so forth. So, but this gives everybody basically a clean slate to go into 2021 and give whoever walks out of the Rumble, if it's somebody on the Raw side that ends up winning it, and maybe we'll get into that a little later on, the chance to basically start anew.
Right, and you're right. Drew McIntyre will start anew now that he's dispatched of AJ. Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, in the match, AJ did look good.
Mm-hmm.
McIntyre looked good. He needs to sell a little harder. Because, I remember there was a calf crusher type of thing that AJ was doing, using a ladder for some extra squeeze on that thing. Mm-hmm. But AJ is yelling louder than Drew is.
Mm.
It's like, come on, Drew, you gotta sell a little bit. You got a little bit more than that. Mm-hmm. But also, I don't know if this is a WWE thing, but so the Scottish guy has bagpipes in his entrance. He wears a kilt and is given a Braveheart sword.
Yeah, that is. They're teasing something with Sheamus with that, because Sheamus a few weeks ago, actually prior to Survivor Series, gave Drew McIntyre in the back a trunk of his old FCW stuff. So the kilt, the sword was all part of McIntyre's gimmick when he first started in WWE way back when. And that's part of the whole thing, is that there's a budding friendship that's been rekindled, I guess, between Sheamus and Drew. And there's talk that that's probably going to be a feud that potentially is like a safety pin for them for Mania, between Drew and Sheamus for the title, in case there's something that doesn't materialize organically between now and April for the WWE title. So
which is fine and all. I'm just kind of saying WWE is still really caught in the past with these stereotypes that they give to their international talent. Like the Indian guy has to be Indian, Jinder Mahal.
Yeah.
The Scottish guy has to be Scottish. The French guys have to be French. It's like this isn't the 80s and 90s anymore, man. Like, can you let them be people?
Yeah, exactly.
Can
Yeah,
not
that's
just. Yeah.
That's the thing, and that's one thing that you could argue that AEW has over WWE is they're allowing, for the most part, their wrestlers to be individuals. I mean, there's some there's some exceptions to the rule over there too, but you take a look at what they're doing, especially around the TNT title right now on Dynamite on Wednesdays, and yeah, it's basically their people just being their people. That's it. So.
With zero guidance. You know what? It's not an AEW thing. We don't have to get into them. I'm not going to tear into them.
This is all WWE, but I just figured I'd bring that up. But anyway, if I had to basically give that match a thumbs up, thumbs down rating, I'd give that match a thumbs up because I thought it over-delivered. What say you, just quickly?
I will give it a thumbs up. It over-delivered, but in saying that, that absolutely should not have been the opener for how good it was.
Yeah, that should have closed the show.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There was more than a lot of people on Twitter that had mentioned the same thing, that should have been the main event. So that, we'll see how that we'll see how that rolls out. I should also mention while we're recording is that I am currently running a poll on Twitter that we will hit on at the end of the show, where I'm asking the followers over at Kellen Nitro, and you can do this after every single WWE or AEW or New Japan show or whatever that I post on there. I'll post a match of the night poll. You can vote on it. It's up there for like an hour after the show, and then we'll take a look and see who the winner is. But as we were starting to record, this match was tied for first with another match on this card, and I'll let you know what match that is when we get to it.
I like the sounds of that.
There we go. So the next contest. Oh, it's your wifey.
Wifey.
The WWE SmackDown Women's Championship. Carmella taking on your wifey, Sasha Banks.
That's wifey right there.
What do you think of her 2020, Sasha Banks?
Incredible. I think it's been absolutely incredible the way that she's had the feud with Bayley. She has the title. She's changed it up. She's really confident in her look. Everything about her presentation, the way that she carries herself, it's like, wow, Sasha Banks has really arrived. She's really in the top tier of women's wrestling.
All right. And along kind of the same similar vein, but we've only seen this for about a month and a half or so. What do you think of the new rebranded Carmella?
What happened to her? She's no longer fabulous. She's not from Jersey anymore. She comes out wearing Billie Kay's NXT attire. What is this?
What was the saying that they were giving her tonight? She's like the immaculate one now.
I think she literally said she's the hot girl.
Yeah.
How many times have you guys tried to run this? Quit running this. Like, we talking about the stereotypes in wrestling in the WWE. This is one of them. The hot, quote unquote, hot blonde.
Well, she needed a image change just due to the fact that the Jersey Girl, referred to Enzo and Cass, obviously wasn't going to fly anymore towards the end of 2019. So they gave her an image makeover and took her off TV for a bit. I don't think there was any injury or anything like that. I think they just basically took her off TV and then tried to bring her back a la Liv Morgan and see what happens with a newer image and that stuff. But we saw what happened with Liv Morgan for 2020, where she ends up at the end of the year again tagging with Ruby Riott. So basically it's a full big round circle back to, I don't want to say the start of everything, but as close to the start as you can get. So time remains to be seen about that, but the new Carmella doesn't move the needle for me. That's all I'm saying.
No, it's ridiculous. I don't know what she's supposed to be other than what she literally said in the vignette. She's the hot girl. What? Well, that's your persona? That's it? And you're an alcoholic? Like, you drink like bottles upon bottles of champagne at ringside with and may I say, Sommelier.
Okay,
Sommelier.
here you go.
WWE.
Here's your sommelier rant. Go for it.
It is pronounced sommelier. The commentators are repetitively saying the sommelier, as in, I don't know, like a French person from Somalia. What? It's sommelier.
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 Sommelier. Okay. I'm getting a
And
pronunciation
they
guide
kept,
here.
oh man, that was destroying me from the inside. I'm like,
Reginald.
sommelier.
Reginald is
Oh,
his name. Reginald. The
Reginald
sommelier.
Sommelier.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
There
You
was a
guys are
funny
like,
there was a funny bit where at the beginning of the match they busted out Carmella and Reginald ended up busting out a double team move on Sasha Banks on the outside, and both Graves and Cole turned to each other and they were like, wow, that's a double team move using Reginald, and then both at the same time, the sommelier, like that. And I was like, what the hell?
yeah, Reginald the Sommelier, according to that.
Yes, exactly how you said, the sommelier.
Oh,
I have down here that these two have interesting apron play. Talking again about Banks and Carmella, in that the two matches that they've had, the one on SmackDown and then this one, I've noticed that because I did see clips of the match from this past Friday on SmackDown with Carmella and Sasha, and they have some pretty interesting spots on the apron of the ring. I think they're kind of one of the more innovative feuds doing ring apron stuff right now across any brand.
you know what? That's very, very true in the fact that it's very popular now to use that side of the ring, the apron there, to do all the power bombs and the back body drops, and then have the commentators say, that's the hardest part of the ring. We know. Yeah. And but yeah, you're right. What they were doing out there is like, okay, this is a little bit fresh. This is a little bit different. And Sasha Banks, she loves to take those bumps head first. Like it looks like she dies on a lot of these moves. She sells perfectly. That match, though, it does start off a little bit frigid, a little bit cold just on the start. It's like when Sasha Banks is throwing Carmella, like even just doing like an Irish whip or just kind of throwing her head into something. It's like she's just kind of going through the motions and hoping that Carmella digs into the move, but Sasha, she has to be a little bit more forceful when working with some of the girls there. She's got to be a little bit more aggressive in terms of, or a little bit more stiff. I mean,
Carmella, Carmella,
mm-hmm.
Carmella must also had been spending some time in the Performance Center, because she busts out, I think for the first time I've ever seen anybody do this move outside of like watching PWG DVDs from way back when in like 2005, 2006 or so. A tilt-a-whirl Falcon Arrow, which is like, wow. That was major league, like unreal. Like I couldn't believe it. We'll go to the finish of this thing, and we got Reginald. Reginald, there we go. I'll try this again. Reginald. So, for those watching on video, by the way, I'm just reading this off my phone because my notes didn't send to my computer properly. So that's what happens. So, anyways,
technology, I told you.
I know, right? Reginald pulls Carmella out of the ring after a bank statement attempt. Meteora by Sasha on Reginald, and then back in the ring, small package by Carmella as Sasha gets back into the ring, only nets a 2 count. But Banks retains the title, though, because she reverses it into a bank statement.
Yeah, that was a pretty nice little finish there. I mean, man, wifey is so good.
Yeah,
I'm biased. Yeah. I don't care. I'm biased. The boss is the best. And she like really is like genuinely one of the best women's wrestlers, man. Like she sells perfectly. You believe it in the match that it's a real struggle and a real fight. But Carmella has personality, and I really like what some of the stuff that she's doing now. But sorry, like in the ring. But that character is so flat. It has nothing to it for her to really go off of.
Right. So the runtime for that was 12 minutes and 10 seconds.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. good pace to that match, very quick. Like I said, I love the stuff on the outside. I'd like to get familiar with Carmella and Reginald and the I guess the relationship now and that stuff, now that we've have him as her, I guess, quote unquote valet or manager, however you want to put it. We'll see how that ends up. Sommelier, there you go. And we'll see how far that goes. Again, wipes the slate clean for another champion, so we can head to Rumble. And yeah, you could run this back at Rumble again as a rematch, and I'm sure it will be fine. But I think that they'll give it to somebody else on the SmackDown roster to go one-on-one with Sasha, and then perhaps she's one of the champions that's left standing at the end of Rumble that gets the shot at, whoever the Rumble winner is. It depends on which brand that comes out of, right? We're not even sure if NXT is even going to be involved in this yet or not. So,
ooh, that's true. We don't know what Rhea Ripley's going to do.
Yeah, we don't know what Rhea's going to do. We don't know what Candice LeRae is going to do now that they're kind of elevated on
Sorry,
NXT.
That's a natural reaction. Just say her name again.
Candice LeRae.
Oh, sorry. I'm really trying.
That's my birthday, buddy. Come on, we share the same. We share the same birthday and birth year, so we were born on the exact same day.
You and who?
Candice LeRae.
Oh. All right. Yeah, we don't know what she's gonna do. Hopefully nothing. But yeah. How about that next match?
Next match was the WWE Raw Tag Team Championship. The Hurt Business, the challengers of Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander, taking on the New Day of Kofi and Xavier. Yeah, why are you laughing?
Are you sure that was Kofi and Xavier? You sure that wasn't the Young Bucks?
Oh, really? So that's what you... Because you're thinking a little deeper than I was here with this, because I was just watching the Hurt Business mostly for that match because I had the feeling that they were going to walk out with the belts. So I was just kind of watching the storyline between Benjamin and Alexander, which sounds like it's going to be kind of tag team partners that are part of the same faction that don't trust each other have the belts now. So, but
right, and I guess that's the part that we're supposed to be focused on. But what I saw in the ring is that the New Day comes out like a house of fire, and they're doing tag moves that are like the combo moves and the quick transitions and these. It's not like flashy like the Young Bucks, but they were tagging in and out and doing tag team moves like insane.
Fair.
I was like, this is like a Young Bucks match, but if the New Day did it.
So it was a shot at the Young Bucks, but it was a veiled shot at the Young Bucks, is what you're saying.
Perhaps.
Okay.
Perhaps.
Fair enough.
But otherwise, I mean, it was an entertaining match. Mm-hmm. I really did like it. I kind of like the Hurt Business. I wish they had a little bit of a different style to them, but mm-hmm. It looks very WWE and it feels very WWE, but it doesn't have that, like, I almost want it to be like, you ever watch Power?
NWA Power?
Oh, no, I meant like 50 Cent's Power.
Oh.
Or, you know what I mean? Like, man, I'm going to just say it. I can say it. I want it to be black.
Okay.
The Hurt Business, I want them to run things like bosses, like thugs, like really do a Hurt Business house beat, like the Hurt Business. You know what I mean? But they don't.
So are you saying that the Hurt Business basically is a white person's interpretation on how a black faction would work?
A black rich faction.
Okay. Fair enough.
But yes, that's kind of how it feels.
Okay.
Coming from, this is the Minority Report here, but yes, that is totally how it feels.
Nope. Fair claim. Like, I mean, that's something that never crossed my mind before, but now that you say it, yeah. Well, you look at the people who are in the hierarchy right now in WWE, and I think that it's mostly, if not all, 100% Caucasian that are in charge of, all the power positions right now.
Yeah, those are the guys that changed Keith Lee's theme song.
Yeah, so I think that's probably something that needs to be looked at in the coming years, is maybe get a little bit more diverse in creative. Yes, I agree 100%.
Yeah, like kill the stereotypes and just make stuff a little bit feel relatable and real.
Yeah. So, finish of this match, Cedric Alexander tagging in as Shelton Benjamin was readying for a finishing maneuver, and he hits the lumbar check and gets the 1-2-3. I think it was on Kofi, who was the legal guy in the ring at that point, because whoever took the bump, bumped 20 feet off of the knees on the lumbar check. It was like oversell city with that.
Yep, that's Kofi.
So, that's Kofi.
Right there.
Yeah, that had to have been Kofi big time. And so the runtime for that, as we look at the magical Wikipedia timer here, 10 minutes right on the dot. So they nailed 10 minutes right on the noggin with that.
That is impressive that they hit it exactly at 10.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it felt like a 10-minute match, but I mean, the pace of this one was really quick. It was really brought up, and I swear to you, the New Day was doing a Young Bucks kind of match.
Now that you say it, if I watch that match back again, I'll have a chance to take a look at it and probably
look for those transitions.
I'm going to look for it. Yeah, that's going to be like the hidden Easter egg for the pay-per-view here. Yeah, so
absolutely.
All right, well then the volley goes to Wednesday on Dynamite. Let's see what the Young Bucks have to do, because I think they have a title defense this week against somebody. I think the Acclaimed or something like that this week on Dynamite. So we'll see if
they'll throw waffles out to the crowd.
Or they start doing like the Midnight Hour and some of the New Day tandem moves or something. So, but maybe. you know that the New Day and the Elite are like boys from way back when, though, right? Like they've been buddies for like well over a decade.
They even played each other in like a Street Fighter 3-on-3 thing at some kind of Comic-Con or something.
Yeah, it's CEO, I think, in Daytona one year or something like that. Yeah. Whatever the name of the tournament that Jabali hosts, that's what that is.
Right.
Yeah. So
how about that next one?
The next one, as I try to advance here. Well, first we got to talk about this. We got a date revealed today for the Royal Rumble in 2021. We have a location revealed for it too. It's going to be inside the Thunderdome at Tropicana Field as expected. And the date, this is late. Holy smokes. It's like the very last day of January. January 31st, 2021 is going to be the Royal Rumble.
Yeah. I'm not sure why they would put it off that late, but I mean, it's still in January.
Yeah, me neither. I have no idea why it's off that late, but that was shocking when I saw that, because up until this week, they had it listed as January 22nd or 23rd or something like that. So they changed the date at the last second.
I'm almost wondering if there's anything that's going to come up on the calendar that would coincide with those kind of weekends, whether it be basketball startup or something in the season, or hockey or UFC.
Well,
I wonder.
We got word that hockey is starting on January 13th.
Yes.
So that's going to be, that'll be January 13th will be hockey. So I don't know if they want to go head to head with that. Now, that does kind of fall into January 31st, I think, is the off weekend before the Super Bowl, because the Super Bowl is first weekend in February all the time, right? So.
Okay, I think that's
probably what that
sense.
Is. Yeah.
That would make sense. That would be a good spot to put it then, if it's the off week. Yep.
And an outside thought that I had is maybe they might be looking at potentially, for the first time since the pandemic started, selling tickets for this thing.
Ooh, it'd be a step forward in this whole pandemic issue. That would be a step forward. I mean, hopefully it's done safely if they do that, but yeah.
Because the way that the Thunderdome at Tropicana is set is that they have more screens around the ring than they were able to do in Orlando. But they also have the flexibility of moving the back wall out and having the grandstand section as well at Tropicana, the upper deck at least, open and with plain view of the ring. So you have the fans way back away from ringside, and you can socially distance them throughout. So, and as we've seen, Florida is one of the few states that allows people to still gather for stuff. So
true. And when they have the barricade and the screens with a little bit of distance, and it plays with your depth perception, and we'll get to that in the Orton match at the very end here.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that thought about depth perception, but I'm going to put that in your brain as a little earworm. Anyways, let's go to the next part.
Depth perception. Got it. Okay. All right. There's an interesting back and forth of Kayla and Sammy backstage over journalism ethics.
Yeah, about that.
Okay, you're a former journalist. Spill the beans here. What's up with that?
I don't tell my sources, is the line that she used.
Yes. I'm sorry, Sammy. I don't reveal my sources, I think was the exact verbiage.
I'm like, yeah, we do. We have to be credible. You have to give your sources. Otherwise, you can just make up quotes. What are you talking about?
So,
Sorry, Sammy. I don't reveal my sources.
What are you talking about?
so is this essentially perhaps Vincent Creative poking fun at the media?
I think that they don't know anything about the media, and if that's their best shot at it, then yikes, you guys are out of touch. But you know what I did like about that segment? Sammy is truly unlikable, and you want to watch him. He is so unlikable. It is just beautiful. He's a great heel.
Right. All right.
He is so self-righteous, and he is so just full of himself. He's so angry and angsty, and it's just this guy's something to watch.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. We're going to move on now to the next match, which was the WWE Women's Tag Team titles on the line, where we had Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax go head-to-head with Asuka, the WWE Raw Women's Champion, and Question Mark, which ended up being Question Mark because Lana legit got hurt or got the injuries that she's been working with for over a few months now, and that stuff finally caught up with her, and they decided to give her some time off or something along those lines. I think I heard there was an MCL sprain in there, so she might be out for a little bit, which is...
You mean she got hurt with a Nia Jax match? Shocking.
I think she got hurt on one of those table bumps before Survivor Series, and she's just been toughing it out because she knew that she was going to get a push. That's it. So
yeah,
that's the thing, is that, kudos to her. And she gained a lot of respect during this run from myself. She legit can work, which is great. And, hopefully she comes back and she's the same Lana that we've seen here at the end of 2020 when she does come back. So I'm not saying that I've become a fan, but I've gained a lot of respect for her over the past few months. But yeah, this was supposed to be the big blow off between Nia Jax and Lana here. It was going to be fair, and it was going to end up with Asuka and Lana walking out with the women's tag titles, right? So, but
don't worry, they'll repackage Lana as the hot girl number 16. At this point, can we just call them fembots? Austin Powers reference, that's right. But yeah, can we just I don't have any faith in WWE with returns of wrestlers. Although the return that happens in this match, hey, not too bad.
Charlotte Flair comes back. Thoughts?
Where was she?
Off. They've said that she was out due to some changes with plastic surgery or something like that. But I think legit after in between Mania and when she did lose the NXT women's title at, I think it was Great American Bash, the TV special they had back in July. I think she had either a knee problem or maybe something similar to what Lana's going through right now with an MCL or something like that, because I think she legit had a medical surgery done on top of whatever plastic surgery stuff that she ended up getting done too or whatever. But I think she legit had a medical procedure done that put her out for this amount of time, and she's back. And I think that they were going to try and have her come back at the Rumble as a surprise entrant. But with Lana getting hurt, they said, nope, you're back now, so go forth.
Was that one of the leaked things that you were talking about earlier?
That was one of the leaked things that was the leaked thing that was talked about earlier in the day, is that Wrestling Observer got a hold of somebody at the WWE that was close to creative and basically asked, hey, who is the mystery partner tonight? And they said, oh, it's Charlotte. So...
Well, Well, that was easy.
Yeah.
But for me though, I did not know of any leaks or anything like that because I don't look for that kind of stuff. I was just kind of watch the show coming in cold. But to see Charlotte back, that's a good thing. That's a lot more star power back into the women's division.
Mhm.
Also, the very first thing is as soon as Charlotte music hit and it's like, okay, she's back. I'm like, all right, what does her face look like now? This ever evolving face to not quite look like Rick anymore. It's just so bizarre, but I can't look away.
What's wrong with your face? Anyway.
It's always changing, man.
Yeah.
But it is though. She gets plastic surgery, I swear, like on the monthly.
Yeah. And I mean, that was one of the things. But I think this time that she was out, she legit had a medical procedure done of some sort. And I want to say it was a knee injury that she got fixed or something. So,
which would make sense because she had a brace on since like Mania or something, or even before that.
Yeah, and she didn't have the brace on tonight, if you noticed. It was just knee
she
pads.
did not.
Yeah, so.
But yeah, Asuka and Charlotte.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, so kind of an oddball tag team pairing there, but they end up winning the match. Karafuda clutch attempt by Shayna Baszler reversed into the natural selection by Charlotte Flair for the 1-2-3. The runtime for that TL was 10 minutes and 5 seconds. So they missed a 10-minute they missed a 10-minute mark by 5 seconds. So probably just, the little extra flourish on a natural selection, maybe, bump that match past the 10-minute mark, but pretty consistent out of the mid card here, knocking off 10-minute matches like nobody's business tonight.
And it was a pretty decent one as well, but I did notice at the very end. Did we already talk about the end of the match yet or no?
I talked about the finish, but go ahead and talk about the end of the match.
Okay, we did talk about the finish. Okay, perfect. Then I'm going to say is that as they're holding up the belts, all the commentators are talking about is Charlotte. Charlotte's back. Charlotte's the champion again, 10-time champion. Now with the tag team champion, the champion. Asuka has 2 championships now, and that wasn't mentioned once.
Yeah,
there was no mention of a champ.
There's she's a champ, and that might be part of the storyline now. Maybe they run this back at Rumble where it's Charlotte and Asuka over the Raw Women's title because Asuka's jealous of Charlotte.
Which I guess is a rather petty, but I mean,
because I don't think they're going to have Charlotte as a heel on that show anytime soon. I think they're going to have her as a face now.
Yeah, it's tough. You know what? Without a crowd, it's really tough to tell who really should be a face and who should be a heel, and especially when, and I was talking about that earlier.
Yeah,
the little screens with the people on them, they've got thumbs down, they're booing, but the sound effect, the pumped in sound, has cheering going on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you really don't know who's actually over and who isn't, because they're trying to tell you who's the good guy and bad guy with the sound effects.
Yeah, exactly. It's it's kind of a dictated fake crowd now at this point, which is, I mean, I watch wrestling shows that don't have a crowd around them on the regular now. It's something that NWA was doing before their United Wrestling Network show shut down. It's something that Impact's doing on the regular now. It was something that AEW was doing, but they had a small they had a small tweak to that where they actually had the undercard wrestlers as the crowd around ringside and as of cheering and booing. But for most of the pandemic, they've been in front of an empty audience. And just recently, over the past few months now, they've started to bring people back in. WWE, they didn't have a crowd for WrestleMania through Money in the Bank, I want to say. And then in August for the Thunderdome launch in Orlando, they did the crowd and the crowd roaring and the piped in crowd and that sort of thing. And yeah, of course they're trying to dictate who can cheer and who can boo and who to do it. This is the first time in 6 or 7 years that they can actually get the crowd reactions they want. So they're going to take advantage of it. Absolutely. Who could blame them?
But I blame them because wrestling.
Oh, it's terrible. Yeah, I know. I'm not disagreeing with you with that, but I'm just saying it is absolutely, like I don't blame them in the least.
Oh, I blame them. I blame them so hard for that. But moving on from
Yeah,
that
yeah,
part of
yeah.
it,
Moving on. Exactly here.
match was good. Good return for Charlotte. Everything looks strong from her. She looks like an absolute superstar. Asuka
Yeah.
took a back seat, and the commentary helped with that, putting her in the back seat. And you're
Yeah.
right. Maybe that might move a little
Yeah.
something to Rumble for them.
Yeah, exactly. So it'll be interesting to see exactly again who the dance partners are for the two champions at the Rumble if they do a run back of these matches just to fill the pay-per-view spot, or if they're going to be two fresh challengers or whatever for the Rumble, going after both Sasha and Charlotte. And yeah, they'll be revolved around those guys, or those two, I should say, until Becky gets healthy enough to get back into the ring, maybe late next year or early in 2022.
I really want to see somebody step up though, because of what they call the NXT Four Horsewomen of Charlotte and Becky, Bailey, and Banks.
Yeah.
Like, they're running the show and have been for a few years now. It's like, can somebody step up and be a real challenger? I mean, they had Ronda Rousey. That might have just been a one-off, but I mean, somebody's got to step up here.
Well, they got Io down in NXT, and I think you put Io in the ring with, Io and Asuka would be fun, obviously. I think you put Io in the ring with Sasha, that would be fun. Io and Charlotte, though, might be... I mean, they met in NXT a couple of times, and I didn't think the matches were overtly awesome. But that might be something.
My other thing is, no, WWE, I don't trust them with NXT talent anymore whatsoever.
No, they don't. Yeah.
I feel like if Io Shirai comes up, they're just going to tag her with Asuka, much like they did with, what's her name?
Kairi Sane.
Kairi Sane. Yeah. Same thing. It's like, oh, wow, when she comes to the roster, she can do this and she can do that and she can wrestle this. Let's just tag her with Asuka and we'll make them Japanese girls.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Like, I don't trust them. Io Shirai, I don't know what they'll do with her on the roster. McMahon will probably just look at her and be like, you're too short.
Yeah, exactly. So that's all from the women's division there. And shortly after that, we got into the second of two, what I thought was two main events on this thing, but then I had totally forgot about the Firefly Inferno match at the end there. But it was the WWE Universal Championship TLC match, Roman Reigns the champion versus Kevin Owens.
So here's a funny thing.
Okay, yeah, do tell.
I had to switch to my phone at this point because I had to charge, and so I'm laying in bed and I'm starting to doze off a little bit.
Yeah.
And I see the Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns match is about to start. And I said to myself, Kevin Owens will not win this match because Kevin Owens never wins these matches. And I'm literally dozing in and out. And I kind of dozed off.
Yeah.
And I woke up and Kevin Owens lost the match. And I'm like, there we go. All is right with the world.
Right, exactly. So
now I did have time to go back and very quickly glance over the match and see everything that did happen with the Uso brother, which I don't know which one.
Jay.
What happened to Jimmy?
Jimmy's hurt. Knee injury again. Seems like knee injury was the injury du jour of 2020 in WWE.
Well, I mean, wrestling takes a big toll on your knees when you have to jump and bump and all the shock that goes through your knees and stuff. And you feel like they should be protecting themselves a little bit more, or, with certain moves and stuff like that. But no, they just go all out until they have no more ACLs.
Exactly. So the finish for this thing was Owens climbing the ladder, but Uso catches him, and there's a stunner to Jey Uso that allows Kevin to get back up to the top of the ladder. But at the same time, Roman Reigns races and beats him to the top of the ladder. Well, actually, they arrived at the top of the ladder on that last attempt at about the same time. And Reigns ends up locking in a guillotine choke on Owens. Owens drops like a dead fish off the ladder, and Reigns retains the WWE Universal Championship. Runtime for that one was 24:45.
Hey, that's a good nap on my end. But that being said, actually going back and watching the match a little bit, Roman Reigns should have died like 9 times, and his invincibility level is ridiculous. He speared a barricade and he was able to get back to a ladder chase in time. He went through a table or two accidentally and he still got back up in time. It's like, man, can you guys do this a little, like, have some form of realism in this? Or is he just going to be Superman?
Yep, exactly. That's one of those things, is that, you know, he's now heel. Have him start doing more heel stuff, and the heel Superman gimmick is kind of okay. Kind of flies in the face of him being a heel. He's got to kind of, you know, as they say, show his ass a little bit, and you know, kind of hide outside of the ring, or, you know, have others do the dirty work for him, which they did in this match, kind of with Jey Uso coming back. And I'm sure when Jimmy gets healthy, it'll be Jimmy and Jay doing the whole thing, unless they start doing an Uso versus Uso thing on SmackDown, which is WWE. Don't rule out that possibility. But yeah. So,
but I mean, it's just he's like a horror movie villain. Like, he just is indestructible, Roman Reigns, and it's really annoying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it takes the realism or any sense of reality out of that match. And then I'm like, of course Kevin Owens won't win, because that's the way that they've booked him for years now. I'm like, Kevin Owens doesn't win big matches, and he didn't, and I'm not surprised.
So is that going to be a trope that they're going to try to exploit in 2021, do you think? Or do you think that he does that until perhaps maybe the Royal Rumble, and he's one of the he's one of the front runners now to win the 21 Royal Rumble and get back to that spot?
No, I honestly think WWE is just going to make him a loser for the rest of his career until he's like a little bit too old, and like, maybe he should get a run. But like a Mark Henry. But honestly, like, they just treat him like such a loser. And I don't even know if they realize that they're doing that to Kevin Owens, but that's how he comes across to, like, me, the casual viewers, that this guy's a loser. He's either going to lose the big match, or he's fighting for his job, which somehow comes up at least once a year, where he's against management and he has to wrestle to win his job.
Right.
Because he almost gets fired, whether it be by Stephanie, Vince, or Shane.
Yeah, that's always the way it seems to go with him, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. So that was that, and that's all I can basically add to that is what you said. So we're going to move to the main event here, the Firefly Inferno match. So it was Randy Orton taking on the Fiend in this Firefly Inferno match. And if you're a longtime viewer of this channel and that stuff, you know that I am not a fan of the 2017 storyline between Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton, just because the amount of references towards arson was disturbingly high in that. And so I just had versions of just people that are like really just mentally, you know, bad in their brain or something like that, just, you know, burning down houses and whatever. So and everything. And excuse the sound behind me here and that stuff. It is the holidays. We got people dropping in all over the place here. There are I did like the vignette at the beginning of this thing, and then I was surprised that this thing was an Inferno match, because I got so accustomed to seeing outlandish stuff like this year as cinematics, and this wasn't a cinematic. This was a actual one-on-one contest.
You know, I kind of wonder about that. Because there were certain cuts that the camera guys did during certain spots that made me really think, and like, did they film some of this ahead of time or something? Like, something felt a little bit off here. And I'll tell you what spot that was. Bray Wyatt, the Fiend, he goes and grabs the rocking chair of Bray Wyatt. He sits it down, and this is outside on the floor of the ring, where I guess the announcers were supposed to be, but that's now just been replaced by boxes. And Bray Wyatt puts Randy in the chair, and he puts gasoline, and he puts a trail of gasoline away from the chair, and then he lights it, and then the trail of fire gets closer and closer to the chair, and then Randy jumps out right in time. But that whole sequence was shot in a way that made me feel like that wasn't live. Yeah,
no, I hear you 100%. That's something that they did during Orton and Edge at Backlash as well. They did some really funky camera angles in that, where they had the cameraman kind of underneath them as they locked up for the first time. And
Yeah, what
you
was
know,
that?
that's like it's kind of a hybrid cinematic, I would think, where the match was pre-taped, but they might have shot it as live, but they did a couple of things off the beginning of this match, and then they called them in after doing those spots or whatever and said, okay, now have at it like a normal match, just for the
Right.
to get the spontaneity down and everything and whatever. Or they just taped it ahead of time as a normal match, but they just had these different camera angles and that stuff used for it. So like they had multiple cameras shooting the thing that you either see or don't see. So
Yeah, maybe. What I would want to go back and see is to look at the screens behind them and see if there's any giveaways there, whether it be still images or repeating images or something like that.
Well, I'm sure we'll find out in the coming days or weeks about that. People claiming that, hey, their likeness was not used with their permission. Because we get that. Yeah. Because that's happened already once or twice this year on a couple of things with the Thunderdome. So.
Gotcha. But in this actual match itself, going to the match itself, I mean, it starts off with just them in the ring. There's no fire as of yet. And like you said, and I didn't know either, that it was going to be an Inferno match, which is ludicrous. But they're in there and they're trying out their moves of Orton trying to get the Fiend down, and he just keeps getting back up. And then the Fiend kind of throws up his cane hands and then fire all over the Thunderdome, well, around the barricade.
I have the spot right here. Orton tries to nail some blows early, but the Fiend laughs it off, and it's forwarded into an RKO attempt, which the Fiend shakes off. And then there's another RKO attempt right after that, but the Fiend turns it into a Sister Abigail, and the Fiend nails the Sister Abigail, and holy shit. Right after. He goes right after, and it's full on Kane from 97, but he adds a little like that, and fire, and I'm like, take me back to 98, take me back to the Unforgiven in your house. This is Taker and Kane right now, man. And I'm marking out in my chair. Like, that was the first time that I had marked out on a WWE show in a long time. When I saw it, I was like, this is an actual Inferno match. Somebody's gonna get caught on fire. This is awesome.
Yeah. By the way, your version was way better than mine. Just reading the notes there. For those who didn't see it and are trying to imagine it, there were poles that were basically right behind the barricade, and then those were lit up in fire. And then they would have jets of fire that would shoot out right behind that, almost like an Undertaker entrance. And then you see the screens in behind that.
Yeah.
And that's what...
Yeah, it was it's very similar to the fire rigging that you'd see at like concerts and stuff that are kind of in behind the stage there with the flame floors and everything like that, where you can adjust the volume on them. And they, because they announced this thing as an Inferno match, and Mike Rome was standing in the middle of the ring doing the ring announcements, and I'm looking at it and I say, I don't see the metal troughs that they were using for Taker and Kane back in 98 around the ring or anything like that. So I'm like, well, what the hell is
That's what
this,
I thought too. That's what I thought too.
And then I figured, well, the Fiend will obviously call for it during the match then, if that's the case. And then he called for it, and my God, that was impressive. I love that setup, man. That was like something out of a video game.
That's the key thing right there. That was totally video game right there.
It was.
But now, for that earworm that I put in there earlier about depth perception.
Earworm. Okay.
Yes, the depth perception. Now, what they're trying to do throughout the match is push each other into these flames that are behind the barricade. And the camera would get low enough that it was right level with the top of the barricade. So it almost looked like the fire was right there within arm's reach of igniting one of the two, Orton or Bray Wyatt. However, we see depth perception on television, and we know how that works. So the flames were a good 6 to 10 feet away. And it was pretty obvious that they were nowhere near the fire. And you're like, what are you guys doing?
Good old depth perception. Yeah, for sure. But man, that was that was a pleasant surprise with that. What really wasn't a pleasant surprise was, well, actually, I just want to bring forth a spot that I found kind of humorous and kind of cool at the same time during this match too. Is that Fiend nailed the Zeus neck snap during a point in this match on Randy Orton. Do you know what I'm talking about here, TL?
Yes, I do.
The whole thing where, the Fiend has Orton down kind of in a seated position, and he starts wrenching on the neck a little bit, and then grabs the neck and then just pulls it the other way and go woo like that. That was the finishing maneuver that was made famous by Zeus, FKA Tom Tiny Lister, who passed away last week. And no doubt that was Bray Wyatt kind of paying tribute to one of the veterans, shall we say, of the WWF back in the late 80s, early 90s. Who can ever forget, why have a Merry Christmas when you can have a no-holds-barred Christmas? So there we go. I found it humorous and cute and poignant at the same time. So it was
okay.
Poignant.
Now, just to clear a few things up. One, yes, R.I.P. to Mr. Debo there from the Friday franchise.
Debo!
And yeah, Debo!
Debo!
I honestly don't. Well, it might have been a tribute, but the thing is, the Fiend has done that move repetitively.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like I remember him doing in the Hell in the Cell against Seth Rollins, and it was all red, and that was the first time we saw it. And it was like, oh, he just did that martial arts thing where they snap his neck and he dies.
Yeah, and he did it in the house show too about a week before Hell in a Cell as well here in town that I went to. So there we go, when they were still trying things out for that match. So it's part of his moveset, but I still thought it was still pretty cool. So
okay, yeah.
But all right, so the finish of this thing.
Hold on, I was just gonna say the part I was laughing at was
all right. Go
the
for it.
commentator said, "And there's a snap on the neck." I'm like, no, that's a snap of the neck. You snapped his neck. You killed him. You just killed Randy Orton by snapping his neck.
It's just a snap to the neck. A little jump to the right.
Yeah, that's what man, these commentators bug me.
A little bit of Rocky horror for you this holiday season. How's that?
That's all we needed.
Yes.
Oh,
Christmas
man. To me. But yes, after the snap on the neck, where he just does this to your neck, apparently. The thing about this match in terms of the psychology and the mentality, it was kind of like who's crazier.
Yeah,
between Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton. And at times Randy Orton has like moments of being human and you're supposed to relate with that part, but then he turns out to be just as big as monster as Bray Wyatt.
Yes.
How do you feel that played to you? Did that work for you?
Oh, it did. Yeah. Because back in the late 2000s, early 2010s, TL, who was the big heel monster on WWE TV? It wasn't The Undertaker, it wasn't Kane, it wasn't anybody. It was Randy Orton. Like, Randy was the top heel at one time, and he can get like that. He can vibe like that, man. He's that's that place where the voice is inside his head talk. That fit that character perfectly. And now it's at the point where, okay, Randy's up there in age. This is 2020 going into 2021. This isn't 2004, 2006. You're not the young kid on the roster anymore. You're the 20-year veteran now at this point. There are young, hungry heels and faces coming at you. So what are you going to do? What do you got to do? And like we've seen this year, there's even people from your past coming out of retirement to get at you. Like, I mean, that's the thing, is what are you going to do? What's that? Randy Orton has had a renaissance year in 2020. The guy is going to be up for, multiple match of the year candidates now and that stuff. And rightfully so. The feud with Edge was, the WrestleMania thing maybe stretched a little longer than it needed to be. But the Backlash match right after was amazing. And then you jump right into him with the world title picture, and he had a run with the world title for a bit. So it was great. And then Drew beat him for the title. And now this whole thing with the Fiend kind of wrapping up here. And that's a very strong 2020 from Randy Orton.
And that's all good for Randy Orton, but in terms of putting these two together, it's like, we've seen this before. Orton burned down his house. Orton loves fire, by the way. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
didn't he tried to burn the Undertaker. He did burn down the complex or whatever you call that for Bray Wyatt.
Yeah.
He tried to kill John Cena with fire in an Iron Man match, and I will never forget that.
Yeah.
So yeah, he tried to like put him on the ramp, and then he went over to the keyboards there, and he tried to like press the button that it turned on the pyro to kill John Cena. I'm like, this guy's a psycho, and he always has been.
Yeah, exactly. For sure. That's the thing. Exactly. That's a whole deal. So yeah, the dude is a psycho, and it's one of those deals. But finish of this thing, a mandible claw by the Fiend, but his back is to the fire, and his back catches on fire. They're on the outside of the ring at this point. Orton ends up winning the match because Fiend's leather jacket is on fire, and we get the real cool visual of the Fiend chasing Orton back into the center of the ring with his back of his jacket on fire, like, and his pant leg. This is some Mick Foley deathmatch type stuff we're looking at here. This is Mick Foley and Terry Funk in the IWA back in the mid-90s. This is crazy.
It is visual straight out of a movie where he's on fire chasing after Randy Orton. Like,
yeah, this should have been the main event for Halloween Havoc. What was this whole Cameron Grimes, Dexter Loomis thing that they were doing? I mean, like, come on.
That's an NXT thing, but still, I mean, we got this one here, and it's just like, okay, he's on fire. But not only that,
yeah,
the match is over because the opponent is on fire, and he's really, really on fire, and there's no one putting him out.
Yeah,
and the flames kind of just burn out. But Randy has other plans in mind, and we go to the Kellen notes for the rest of this.
Yes, Randy hears the voices in his head. He douses the Fiend in gasoline. And, well, actually, here, before this, post-match, Orton nails a on-fire Fiend with the RKO and then checks on him after, which was, okay, I'm sorry. Everybody talks about the Evan Bourne RKO as being the greatest RKO of all time when Evan Bourne was doing the
shooting star
from the top and Randy catches him. Close second, of course, is the WrestleMania curve stomp into the RKO from
that was beautiful.
Yeah, from San Francisco back in 2015 or whatever it was.
Yep.
This one here will be in the top 3, I predict. Dude was legit on fire and he RKO'd him.
Yeah, that's true, man. He grabbed a Bray Wyatt on fire, gave him the RKO.
Dude was legit on fire. Like, we're not talking figurative here. We're not talking emojis. We're not talking, Snapchatting with your honey here or whatever. This is...
Yeah, and it wasn't like the Kane and Undertaker one where they kind of dick teased it, but in the end, it just got Kane's foot.
Yeah.
But, like, he was engulfed in fire.
Mind-boggling. Like, what is going on at that point? So, nails the RKO on the Fiend. The Fiend is down. He is out. He is not moving. He then runs out to the outside of the ring, grabs a jerry can of gasoline, and douses the Fiend. And I'm doing the air quotes here. The Fiend on fire, or not on fire, on gasoline, proceeds to light a match. Think about it, and then drops it and yeets himself out of the ring.
Yep. And then, right as the logo hits on the bottom left of your screen,
strike the pose.
Right
amongst the fire again.
Because, after you kill somebody, you tend to pose.
Yeah, exactly. So that was just crazy stuff. It was insane.
And that's the thing for me, is like, that's why I was saying at the very start of this, I had to wash my brain out after the end. It's like, So what we're supposed to see here is we just saw a man kill another man by lighting him on fire.
We did. Yeah, that's what happened. Exactly. So, oh man, like,
never mind the wrestling stuff. It's just, we just saw a man kill another man.
We fade to black at that point. It ended 3 hours right on the dot as well. And they're only giving on Wikipedia, I wonder if they're going to end up changing this or not. They only said that this match was actually 12 minutes long. It seemed longer, but just because of all the post-play after it and that stuff. But they say that the official time for this thing is 12 minutes. But I wouldn't be surprised if they revise that and that's more like a 20-minute thing or whatever, because to me, that doesn't really add up. But that's the only source I've got right now for it, and it's saying 12 minutes. So
the other thing is that And I noticed this. You never hear the bell ring at the end of the match.
No.
So I don't actually know when they hit. I don't actually know when they stop that timer.
Exactly. Well, they're saying that, yeah, they're saying though that we're on the official records and that stuff that Orton defeated the Fiend. So
he did, because the Inferno match is to light your opponent on, was to catch your opponent on fire, and he did
the
that.
idea of the whole thing. It's the first person to catch on fire loses. That's it.
So the match did end as soon as Bray Wyatt caught fire that first time, but
yes,
that's a weird sentence. And then, but the bell didn't ring. So, who knows?
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, this is the part of the show where we give our rating out of 10. I'm going to give this show a solid. I'll give it decimal points this time. I'll give it an 8.7 out of 10. How's that? I think that I would have loved to seen a lot of the stuff tonight with an actual packed arena. How it would have went off. Like, how would have the Fiend basically being set ablaze played out in front of a live audience?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And a few other things too. How warmly received would Charlotte have been? Would there have been some boos? Would there have been some cheers? Would have people cared? Whatever.
Yeah, like I think it would have been like a 50-50 for a Drew versus AJ match.
Yeah, exactly. I think that they'd be split right out down the middle for that, for sure.
Did you give it an 8.7?
Yeah, Miz cashing in a Money in the Bank. Whenever anybody cashes in a Money in the Bank, there's always that pop for it because they're cashing in. So,
except, like, when's the last time somebody used it and it worked? Because this is like another failed attempt, and a very stupid one if you think about it.
I gotta Google now. Just 1 second. I think I noticed, but Money in the Bank. Cash in history. Sure. We'll try that.
But as you're looking that up, I just want to say that the logic behind that was ridiculous, because the match is already going on between AJ and Drew. And then about halfway through it is when Miz and Morrison come in and do their little interruption. And then Miz cashes in so he could be part of a triple threat ladder match. It's like, just cash it in after the match like everyone else does, you weirdo. Why would you do it like that?
Yeah.
Like,
so actually last year was the last time somebody had cashed in and won. It was on the women's side. Bayley cashed it in and defeated Charlotte Flair for the SmackDown Women's Championship. That's what started her most recent title reign as SmackDown Women's Champion. Because she was a face when she won it, and then she turned heel while holding it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Gotcha.
So that's the last time it was successfully cashed in. And then this year, you remember the women's Money in the Bank basically was
on top of a building.
Well, no, Asuka won the women's Money in the Bank, and then the next night on Raw, she basically traded it for the Raw Women's Championship because Becky was pregnant,
because
right?
Becky, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I did see that. Okay,
so that was the first time that the champion relinquished the title to the Money in the Bank contract holder without having a match.
Okay, gotcha. But digressing back to the scores, you gave it the Crosby 8.7.
I'll take it 8.7. Yes.
I'm going to give this one a 7.6.
A 7.6.
Yes, I'm giving this one a 7.6.
All right.
Reason being is just I like a little bit of I'm a little bit old school. Like I like a little bit of reality. I like kind of like that kind of stuff in my wrestling.
Yeah.
The last match went so far overboard. It was like, what in the world? We can just watch murders now.
Yeah, we can. Exactly. So,
and the fact is, like, I don't see myself ever going to go back and watch this again, except for, oddly enough, the very last match to see the camera cuts and stuff like that, to see, was this really live or not? That might be the only reason I go back and watch it again.
I think it was a hybrid thing where they shot the actual match segments of it live as live thing, and then they went and did the whole all the theatrics and everything was pre-taped with different camera cuts on the outside and whatever. So
okay.
because that obviously is a dummy in the middle of the ring. Let's just face facts there. That's a mannequin or something that's dressed up in the Fiend's outfit that Randy sets on fire. Otherwise,
but how did they get him there?
well, on the outside, there's that long segment on the outside of the ring where the barricade was crushed in the Reigns Owens match and that stuff, and he's looking at the gas can and everything. And he's just looking at what he's doing and that stuff, and he's holding up the match too at the same time, like, what should I do? What should I do? And then finally he slowly walks back towards the ring. That's where they exchange it. That's where they got, where the Fiend rolls out and they put the dummy in and basically say, okay, have at it.
And now the secret's revealed.
The secret is revealed. You kind of sounded like the guy who played the voiceover in the Pro Wrestling Secrets Revealed video.
Oh, you caught the reference. Nice.
Salem the Cat. Yes.
That's right. TGIF reference. Okay. So, yeah, I'm gonna give this one to 7.6. That's just I add up so many things. Coming in cold, seeing wrestling for the first time in a while, the Thunderdome setup of madness with the lights and pyro. And can we talk about commentary?
Sure.
I hate the commentary in WWE.
Yes.
Literally the only good stuff I like is that like Samoa Joe has a lot of passion into his stuff, but you can hear the Vince McMahon feeding him words to say every now and then, but just, oh God, I hate the commentary on the show. Michael Cole and Graves are just, they don't do it for me, and neither does this team of Faceless, and Samoa.
Yeah, exactly. So, their commentary team is a little bland. I'll give them that. Compared to, well, basically everybody else. That's the thing everybody else has real top flight wrestling commentators that don't insult you or anything. So I'll just run down the list here. AEW, you've got Excalibur, JR, and Tony Schiavone.
Which, getting started on them.
No, but they're still. You could say that they give a major league feel to the product.
We'll get to that.
Okay. Impact Wrestling, as much as I hate Josh Matthews, they have Josh Matthews. At times they have Madison Rayne, and then at times they'll bring in Don Callis as the color commentator. And that again gives their matches a big league feel. Okay,
yes. To AEW and to Impact, I agree on that. And by the way, Josh Matthews, the guy that you dislike, he's come from that same system of like Michael Cole robots that have run from WWE. But
he's broke out of that. I will give him that. I just don't like his pacing and how he calls matches. That's all.
Because he learned from the best, Mr. Michael Cole.
Exactly. So I think he starts off pay-per-views great, but towards the end of the pay-per-views, you can tell him kind of slowing down. He's like the Energizer Bunny, and the battery is running out on him and that stuff. And I think like the best one was many years ago at one of the Bound for Glories, there was a match between the Hardys and Abyss and a wrestler by the name of Crazy Steve. They were doing the Decay gimmick, and the big blow off of this match was Matt Hardy got a black hole slam, which is kind of like a boss man slam type thing from Abyss through, I think, a table on the top of the stage or something like that in the impact zone. But anyways, that happens, and you just hear Josh, who's been slowing down commentary during this entire match very slowly as stuff is happening, go, Abyss, the black hole slam.
That is actually a good impression.
Like that. It's just like he's running out of power. Somebody plugged this boy in. we still have the TNA title to go here. Come on,
That's hilarious.
But yeah, so that's just my only knock on Josh, is I find that he starts out great and he goes slow like that. But I still would take him and Madison Rayne, or him and Don Callis, over anybody on Raw and SmackDown right now.
And the problem is, it's like you could obviously say it's like, oh, let's just get better commentators. That's not the issue. The issue is they shape them all to be like Michael Cole, who are these just like soulless drones that sit there and say everything that McMahon wants to say
Right.
in the style that he wants, and it's
Mhm.
just awful. So I mean, I don't know, get rid of Michael Cole and stop making the Cole factory.
Yeah.
Like, just
Exactly.
let real announcers do this job. Like
Yeah.
Samoa Joe, you could tell he's got this passion to do it, which, by the way, I'd still like to see him in the ring at some point again,
Yeah.
instead of just being a commentator. But
Me too. Yeah.
man, this commentary kills the show for me at
Mhm.
times.
Yeah, and I like to see the guys that they've got on you know, they have the capabilities to do better and that stuff. Like I think Vic Joseph is vastly underrated. I think he could do a good job, and he was doing a good job on Raw. I think that him and Dio Madden were vastly underrated, but for whatever reason they stuck Jerry to King Lawler with those two guys, and it's like, no, go all fresh. It sounded good, but you know, and it just was, you know, whatever. So
WWE being
that's WWE being WWE, right? So there we go. But yeah, you got him. I still think they'll eventually move Nigel McGuinness up from NXT one of these days.
Nope.
You know, well, they got Nigel and they got Wade Barrett now, so they got like British commentators all across the board here. So
well, exactly,
what's happening?
that's the thing. They don't want I don't think Vince McMahon wants that sound on his major shows. It's fine on NXT and NXT UK where he doesn't have to care, but on his major shows, I don't think he wants that accent, to be honest.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm saying it. WWE has a stereotype and racism problem.
Well, and then there have been those that have tried to break that. You know, it's not like it's been a thing where, you know, it's been stagnant, especially over the past 5 years or so. I mean, like, you know, can you name me 5 years ago who the Raw and SmackDown commentary teams were? I don't think you could, just because there's been that much of a turnover. That's it. So
yeah, you're right. I could not pinpoint that for the life of me.
I could probably tell you if I looked at a list who has done it and who hasn't, but I can't tell you where they were in specific times and that stuff. I mean, like, you know, don't forget there was a period where Renee Young was in as a color commentator on Raw. And then there was that period of time where they were working in David Otunga. And then there was a time, you know, right? So
those are all times I don't want to remember.
So that's that. But yeah, WWE, I think as we get to the close of this, I think WWE, as we look towards 2021 and the Royal Rumble and so on and so forth, is in a constant state of flux. I don't think they'll ever be happy with it until they get back to be the lone monopoly in pro wrestling and in sports entertainment that they were, which unfortunately, because of all the people who are dissatisfied with their product and that stuff, won't be happening anytime soon. And it's going to be a thing where they'll continue to try to put stuff out there, and some of it will be good, and the majority of it will not cater to anybody unless, you know, they're anybody. Exactly.
Anybody. They need fans back and buying tickets and doing that again.
Yes.
That's not going to happen until this pandemic is under control and minimized. So they're going to have to wait it out and try their best until then. Yeah. But right now, if this is their best, they are in so much trouble.
Yeah. The problem is that they are not going to run out of money. So that's the thing, is that they're going to be at it for a long, long time. They'll be still active 10 years from now as WWE or whatever form that they take. It might just be W at that point. It might just be World at that point. Who knows? But
it won't be wrestling, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's it. But they'll still be active, and we'll be just sitting here like, okay, what's going on? What's happening? You know.
Hey, I won't. I'll be the guy that has walked off long ago and moved on.
The problem is that for everyone that walks out, there's 5 that, for whatever reason, get turned back onto the product or get introduced to the product and like it and that stuff, and then they get jaded and then they leave, and then in turn that brings in 5 other people, and then so they've got to the point where it's cyclical. But you know,
that's my thing, is that I don't think it's cyclical anymore, and I don't think that math works, because the fact that, like, the days that we used to watch heavy, the ratings were so much higher, and now they've hit like rock bottom lows on the consistent.
Right.
So I mean, I think they've really just seen people leave the door 5 times faster than have people come in and grow it.
Yeah. So Yeah, I don't know. That's going to be one of those things, is that we have to, that's be something to watch in 2021 for sure. They certainly did some very unpopular moves throughout the year. The Black Wednesday cuts, or I can't even remember what day of the week it was during the COVID
Oh, I know what day
pandemic
that
and
was.
everything. Yeah.
That
Well,
was
that's that.
Rusev Day.
Oh, Rusev Day. Yes, exactly. Well, now it's Miro Day. So there we go. Yeah. So, all those cuts of all those talent and that stuff. And there's a bunch of them right now that are currently making WWE eat it. So we'll put it that way. Well, Good Brothers, because they've launched an entire offshoot spoof universe of basically WWE that they're making money off of now, in kind of a twisted a relationship with the Impact folks and everything, with this Talking Shop-a-Mania series that they're doing. It's basically a spoof on WWE and WWE gimmicks. So it's they've done, I think, 3 pay-per-views since April, and all of them have been as well received, if not more so, than the WWE pay-per-views. So
My whole thing is that they're on Impact, which I didn't even know still existed.
well, until recently, that's the thing too, is that Impact is starting to flex now, and AEW has always been flexing. So that's the thing. It's just it's going to be one of those things where a WWE fan, a pro WWE fan, will always be pushing their product, right? And a pro AEW fan will be always pushing their product, and so on and so forth. So that I look forward to in 2021 and beyond. This is healthy.
This can be a very interesting conversation, because you are, I'm guessing, a very pro AEW guy. I am not.
Okay.
I do not like AEW at all.
Yeah. I think we might have touched on this like very briefly last year off of the Hell in a Cell thing. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think they had just made their debut. Like,
yes.
It wasn't, or something like that.
Yes. Yeah. There was like a month in or something. So yeah, we definitely will have to revisit that. And maybe that's something to table for 2021 for sure. Just
what happened with your poll?
Oh, it's the first time a dude has ever asked me about my poll. So here we go.
Pause. All right, we'll let it slide.
That's
what
right.
You said. Anyways.
Okay, so out of a total of 15 votes, the match of the night, as selected by you, the Twitter followers, for tonight's WWE TLC pay-per-view, was the Owens-Reigns TLC match with 50% of the vote. So that means out of 15 people, I don't know, do math. Second place, surprisingly, was Sasha versus Carmella.
Yes, wifey.
Yes, so they got second place out of that. The third place was the Firefly Inferno, and fourth place was AJ, Drew, Miz, TLC, that whole business.
Okay. It's fair.
And there was a vote for the 8-man tag, but only for one vote. So somebody was trolling us with that vote. But anyway, there we go. So
it was me. No, it wasn't.
But anyways, Kevin Owens, Roman Reigns, the TLC match is your pick for the match of the night. Due to the fact that we're already 90 minutes in on this, and this was a pay-per-view recap show. So, but anyways, TL, thank you very much. Merry Christmas. Happy ho-hos to you.
You as well, my friend.
Exactly. I'm Kellen Nitro. Later days. Happy wrestling watching. We'll catch you next time here on Nitro Maniac TV's wrestling channel. And who knows? It's the time of the year we're all gathering virtually due to COVID-19 and whatever. So you never know who or what is going to drop in on this channel and hang out and talk a little graps, a little wrestling, a little bit of the pugilism of the fine sport. Well, fine sport entertainment, if you will. Later days. Happy wrestling watching, folks. We'll see you next time.